Earlier this year, Governor DeWine allocated $24 million to establish intellectual diversity centers at 5 public colleges across the state. It all got started through Senate Bill 117. One of the bill's sponsors, Republican Senator Jerry Serino, who has been on the show multiple times, says that the centers are meant to help students reach their own informed conclusions about social and political matters. He argued most university faculty are predominantly liberal. Joining me now is Michael Gonzalez. He is the interim director for the first intellectual diversity center in the state, the Institute of Constitutional Thought and Leadership at the University of Toledo. Professor Gonzalez, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me on.
I want you to just sort of begin by walking me through your background. You're primarily a political scientist. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I completed my PhD at Baylor University, where it was in political science. I studied political philosophy and international relations. I taught at Baylor's Honors College in 2 Cortex programs there, so I got to see how 2 different programs functioned within the same honors college. And then I went to Princeton University, where I was a lecturer in political science, and then I was also a research associate at the James Madison program in American Ideals and Institutions, which in some respects is a kind of model for the Institute.
A lot of credibility there. You are just now wrapping up what would be effectively your first semester there at the University of Toledo. What did your students get that they're not getting in other classes?
Sure. Yeah, so I think that our students are focusing on questions that you would ordinarily only get maybe a day, possibly a week to study in a conventional political science or philosophy course. They get to focus on ideas of both conservatism and liberalism. They get to focus on the skills required for civil discourse. And again, those are things that I've taught conventional political science courses at Baylor, and they're things that can be hard to fit in when you're trying to prepare a future political scientist or a philosophy PhD. So in our case, we take those elements and then we focus on them. We devote whole semesters to them. And we do so in an interdisciplinary way. So although I come from the field of political science, I have a colleague in the Institute who comes from philosophy, and another colleague who comes from a different subfield of political science. So we see it as very much complementing things that usually you can only do in pieces in other courses.
So much of any criticism of what you are doing is often this idea that in some way history or some form of politics will be effectively getting whitewashed, is the word that repeatedly comes up. What are you doing to guarantee that you're giving people an unbiased look at some of these issues, despite the fact that you're leaning toward a conservative framework?
Well, I mean, the Institute as such, it definitely provides the conservative perspective as well as the liberal perspective. As far as things that we're doing to try to ensure that students get to see both. So we do have a course we have one right now on conservatism and one on liberalism. We intend to put them together into more of a comparative course. That's one thing. So we can invite students to engage in arguments from the other side. So whether you're a conservative student or liberal student, the idea is that you would engage. You'd have to understand someone who disagrees with you, but as they understand themselves. We can do that in that course. We can also do it in a model U.S. Senate course that we have, where students will sort of reenact historical Senate debates. Our plan is to assign them historical senators who they may not necessarily agree with, but they have to learn that senator's position in a specific debate. So that's something we can do in some of our courses. Others, they get a material that I think really transcends the current partisan debates. We can teach ancient texts. We can teach texts from the Western canon. That gives students an opportunity to engage enduring questions in I would say, naive way, not in the sense of a youthful or inexperienced way, but a fresh look at things that we still ask about. They don't feel as burdened to advocate a specific position when they're reading a text that predates the establishment of our own political parties and issues.
One of the things when I talked with Jerry Serino about this, and I've talked to him about this issue multiple times, one thing that he brings up is that there's some sort of apparent hostility to conservative thought, that students who have conservative views in other classes did not feel comfortable expressing those views, or that they would get some pushback from a professor on those views. Give me your honest opinion here. How much of that is a reality?
Well, I think ideally, it wouldn't be, and it's kind of hard to paint with broad strokes. I mean, the fact is that our course on conservatism is pretty unique. There are very few courses that take a semester-long look at conservatism, or even a semester-long look weighing those two against each other. I don't think it's any secret that if you poll academics, they tend to trend left. Our goal is not necessarily to be solely conservative or a conservative think tank. The goal is to really bring a certain balance by providing an opportunity to look at the things that should bring us together, whether we're conservative or liberal.
I only have a few seconds left. How did it go?
With the establishment of the institute?
With this semester. How did it go? How did students react?
Yeah, we got our courses through in late spring, which is a little late for normal enrollment. We had a small group. We built up from that. I think the ones who came to us really found it a very unique opportunity. Our courses are intentionally different. They're innovative. We keep them to small numbers of students. We establish mentorship relationships, and we also try to focus. I mean, there are skills that you need to be for civic life, right? So being able to understand where someone else is coming from, being able to argue your own position clearly. How do you use free speech well, right? Responsibly.
A lost art, Professor Gonzalez. And I certainly give you a lot of credit in trying to encourage more civil discourse. Best of luck to you with all of this.
Thanks very much.